What's up guys, today I'll be reviewing the G.I. Joe Classified Series, Snake Eyes and Timber Alpha Commandos Deluxe Action Figure Set. So here's a quick look at the front of the box. There's a nice muted artwork of Snake Eyes on the side. On the top of the box, he's number 30. And down to the bottom, some product information as well as the barcode. Down the side of the box, there's a different artwork of Snake Eyes holding his submachine gun, and then some Snake artwork over here, and a very fierce Timber looking like he's jumping into battle. Down to the back, it's the same G.I. Joe artwork that we've seen through the series. A quick comparison with the back of the artwork on Lady J's box. It's the same couple of characters, just more spaced out into a landscape format. And Lady J over here is now moved on to the side, and down around to the other side of the box. A couple of symbols for his skills over here as well as the number 30. So let's go ahead and get him open. Snake Eyes comes with 2 rifles, 1 submachine gun, a pistol, his silencer, and a knife. And over here we see Timber with a growling alternate hit. First up is a closer look at the knife. The handle is curved and is cast in a black plastic. The blade over here, this is painted in a metallic grey. Some serrated detail on the front of the blade. And I must say that the tip of the blade actually looks a little bit strange because it's blunted. And that's probably for child safety. And here we have his pistol. This is cast in a black plastic again. It's got some interesting detail for the barrel. And it looks like it's got an extended clip over here. It's a strange looking part over here at the tip of the barrel. And that tip is actually where you connect the silencer. The silencer over here is just a cylindrical piece of black plastic, and this adds considerable length to the pistol. I will point out though that the pistol looks to have a glossy finish on it, while the silencer is a more matte black. And of course Snake Eyes holds his pistol as well as his knife well in his hands. The knife can be stored on the sheath on his left thigh. And there's also a pretty neat holster on his right thigh to store the pistol as well as the silencer. And over here we have the Uzi submachine gun. It's got very nice detail from the butt all the way down to the barrel. Very faithful details to the actual gun, with the curvy grip as well as the extended magazine. And Snake Eyes holds that Uzi really well. And over here we have the 2 rifles that have a more modern design. This rifle over here has rails at the top, some detail going down the front of the muzzle as well as a supporting hand grip over here, and more of the same details on the other side. The cool feature is that this magazine actually pops off. And here's the other rifle as well, again with rails on the top, a more skeletal lightweight butt over here, and some tech detail down the barrel. This extended clip over here also pops off. So I really like the design of the first rifle because it looks really natural in his grip, as well as with the supporting hand grip over here on the front, looking really good as he springs into a tactical situation. And with the removable magazine feature, you can get him into different poses like reloading his rifle over here, and that really adds another level of playability. So unfortunately, these 3 guns over here do not actually have storage on this action figure, and this is a slight bummer considering the storage options that we've had on the G.I. Joe Classified series so far. But now we have at least some realistic looking guns that you can share among the rest of the action figures. Another bummer to me is also that he doesn't come with a sword, but he does come with a peg hole on the back, and you can probably use the sword from the earlier G.I. Joe Series 1 Snake Eyes. So here's a quick overview of the Snake Eyes action figure. He's looking closer to his classic look, and I think that's a really nice callback. The classic look really brings back the little bit of nostalgia. Here's also a quick comparison with the G.I. Joe Classified Series 1 Snake Eyes. So besides the overall black color scheme, the figure is entirely different. As for the parts on Snake Eyes, he's mostly reused. The only new parts are his head sculpt, his torso gear, as well as his shin armor. The top half of his body, on the torso as well as the arms, are a complete reuse from the Beachhead / Firefly mold, while the bottom half of his body, from the hips all the way to his boots, except for the shin armor, that's reused from the Duke / Flint body over here. In terms of colors and paint, he is cast almost entirely in a black plastic. The only spots of paint that I notice are the glossy black on his goggles, his white G.I. Joe logo over here, and a dark grey for the bottom of his boots. His head's got a very sleek and smooth sculpt, some nice breathing vent details over here down the side on his mask, and a little bit of those details down the front as well. His goggles are curved over the front of his eyes, painted with a glossy black, and it's got some nice strap and buckle detail down the sides going down the back. The top of his head is just smooth as well. So overall, a very plain but sleek design for his head. He's got that ribbed collar design, and pushing aside the gear, we can see that his torso is actually made from 2 different pieces of plastic. There's a more shiny, rigid plastic over here for his torso, while the top of his shoulders is a more matte and softer kind of plastic, as you can see. Looking at the rest of his torso and his gear, it's really just a plain black. which suits the tactical nature of a Commando, but at the same time that lack of paint detail feels just a little bit lazy from Hasbro. The white logo over here is really weirdly placed because it's printed onto a grenade, so it really doesn't make sense to have a logo over here once you throw that grenade away. The gear itself has some detail sculpted onto it. You can see a couple of buckles, straps at the top, and a lot of more straps, buckles, as well as pouches down the front. Again, these are really cool details, but they just don't stand out because they're all black. He's also got that rib design down the sides of his arms and a pouch at the top. Moving on to his back. Again, more of those strap details, as well as the strap over here, down the sides for a little pouch. Moving on to his legs, again is all plain black. The sheath for his knife on the left side of his leg, as well as that holster down the right thigh. And onto his shins, nice sculpted detail to show a little bit of the dents and scratches down the front, so we know this gear has been through some missions with Snake Eyes. The shin armor also has straps down the back. And moving on to the boots, there's sculpted detail for laces at the top. And on the soles you see a dark grey paint being used. And I guess that adds a little bit more detail and variation to a very black looking action figure. In terms of articulation, he's got a ball hinge at the top of his neck, as well as a second ball joint at the bottom of his neck. So his head goes 360, the two ball joints combine for a little bit of tilt right as well as left. He can look down as well as up a fair bit. He's got butterfly joints at his shoulders that swing backwards that far, as well as some swing forward. Swivel hinge at the shoulders for 360 and going out that much. Upper bicep swivel for 360. Double hinge elbows that give you a very good range. Swivel hinge at the wrist, so he goes 360 spin, as well as articulating down and up. And again, it's really strange to have this sort of gun holding articulation on the left hand, while on his right hand you have that same 360 swivel, but the hinge is now in as well as out. He's got a mid-torso ab crunch, and that's hindered a little bit by the gear, but you can get him one click forward as well as one click backward. He's also got a ball joint at the waist, so that gives you 360 rotation, and that combines well with the mid-torso crunch to help you bend forward and backwards as well. He's got drop-down ball jointed hips, so they split a fair bit outwards. On this side is hindered by the pouch on his gear, as well as articulating forward and backward pretty well. He's got an upper thigh swivel, so that gives you rotation. Double hinge at the knees, very good range. Swivel at the boot for 360, ankle tilt up as well as down, and ankle pivot outwards and inwards. And the articulation scheme is pretty much G.I. Joe classified standard. Coupled with the realistic looking weapons, it gets you a fair bit of playability and fun factor out of this action figure. And now we move on to have a closer look at Timber, which to me is the star of this set. He's covered in paint, and it's clear that all that paint budget went into Timber instead of Snake Eyes. The sculpt and paint on this alternate head is phenomenal. Looking at the back, you can see that it's obviously casted in a grey plastic. Excellent sculpting detail for the texture of the fur on the top of his head, as well as the detail inside the ears and the side of the face. And as you can see, there are so many hits of paint over here. There's probably a light grey, a middle tone brown, as well as a middle tone grey, and maybe there's also some dark grey paint at the top. The sculpting for the scar over here is also amazing. That scar detail goes all the way down from the top of the head to the snout. And the scar is also filled in with that brown mid-tone paint. The eyes are menacing, sculpted really expressively. There's the grey shading at the top of the eyes, really brings out the texture and expression. The eyes are also sharply painted. There's black on the outline, as well as a very vibrant gold for the pupils. Moving down to his snout, sculpting detail to show where all those whiskers are coming out. Black paint for the nose. In his mouth, very sharp details for the teeth, the tongue, as well as his lips. Teeth are painted white, pink for the insides of the mouth and the tongue, and black for the lips. And even moving down to his chin, the sculpting detail for the fur over there as well. So overall, I really love this head sculpt. And it's really easy to pull off the neutral head sculpt and put on the more fierce, growling head sculpt. And that looks fabulous. The neutral head sculpt is also really well done, with the same attention to the sculpting and paint. The ears are now pointed upwards, looking rather attentive. The same paint and detail on that sculpting for the scar, as well as the really sharply painted eyes. He's also got black lining for his closed mouth. So putting these two head sculpts side by side, they're both given the same attention to detail and very nice paint fade for the multiple shades of grey, from his mouth all the way to his ears. He's got a really shaggy, furry neck. More of the same great sculpting to show off all that texture and detail in the fur. Very nice paint fade again, from the very light shade of grey at the bottom, the mid-tones in the middle, and the dark grey at the top. It's amazing how the fading is so consistent, even on the separate pieces of the head, the neck, and the rest of the body. So overall, you just see a lot of sculpting detail for the fur on the rest of the body as well as the bottom. The consistent fade of very light greys to the mid-tones and then the dark greys at the top. Really well done on both sides of the whole figure. The joints are also really well disguised amongst the sculpting for the fur, so that's really fantastic work. Taking a closer look at the lower parts of his limbs. They're casted in that light shade of grey. Nice details on his paws. You can clearly see the individually sculpted digits. Black paint for his nails. And here's a very cool touch as well. The bottom of his paws are sculpted and painted in black. I do want to point out though, that while the bottom of his hind legs are casted in a plain light grey plastic, the fading may not look so good over here, but that's really a minor nitpick. And looking at his bushy tail, it actually also has shading. It's casted in a mid-tone grey, and there's paint shading for the darker tone of grey at the top. Once again, really nice work. For articulation, there's a ball joint over here, as well as the lower part of his neck, giving you a great range. He can turn his head really well, moving to the left as well as the right. The two ball joints combine for very good tilt downwards, as well as upwards, and then some sideways bend to the right, as well as the left. He's got a ball joint on his front legs, so he spreads out that far, moving backward as well as forward with a good range. Swivel hinge over here, so he turns outwards as well as inwards. Good range to straighten out his front leg, as well as almost a 90-degree bend. Another hinge over here, he goes backwards as well as forwards that far. And he has the equivalent of ankle articulation here, going upward a very good bit, as well as downwards that far, and ankle pivot outwards and inwards. He's got a ball joint at the midsection, so there's a bit of twist in it both ways. You can have him arc his back, as well as curve it the other way. And there's a good bit of tilt in the body, right and left. He's also got a ball joint at the hind leg, so you got to spread them outwards that far. A good bit of range all the way around actually. Swivel hinge over here, so he goes outwards as well as inwards. The hinge over here is really tight, but it also gets you a fair bit of range. And there's another hinge over here that lets you straighten his leg, as well as letting you bend it quite a fair bit. And the same equivalent ankle articulation over here, going downward that much, as well as upwards. And a good bit of pivot outwards as well as inwards. His bushy tail is on a swivel hinge, so that gets you a 360 swivel and a very good range of hinge downwards and upwards. The tail is curved, so with the articulation you can actually get it to curve right, left, as well as downwards. So there's great posability in the tail as well. With so much posability, you could easily get Timber into so many different poses, like him sprawled lazily on the floor. You can have him tuck his legs in as well. There's no way to completely fold his legs up, so he looks just a little bit awkward sitting down. But still, that's a minor quibble. He looks really attentive sitting up, and he looks really natural just stretching out as well. You can balance him on his tail and have Snake Eyes have a little bit of playtime with him. And he looks really awesome with that alternate head sculpt, jumping and pouncing into action. And of course, he looks great helping Snake Eyes take out some Cobra troopers. Size-wise, Snake Eyes stands at 6 1/4 inches or just under 16 centimeters, while Timber stands at 3.5 inches to the top of his head or about 9 centimeters. For size comparisons, here they are with Gung Ho and Scarlet, Cobra Commander and Zartan, Cobra Infantry and the Red Ninja, Articulated Icons Ninjas, some Marvel Legends, and some Star Wars Black Series. Overall, I can absolutely recommend this set because Timber is a tremendous action figure and the real star. This set should be called Timber and Snake Eyes rather than Snake Eyes and Timber. I'm hard pressed to find anything bad to say about Timber. Maybe his legs can't fold that naturally when he's sitting down, but the sculpt, paint, and articulation are executed almost perfectly on this figure. Snake Eyes, on the other hand, could have used more paint on the smaller details like the straps and buckles. He also should have come with a sword, but otherwise he's a good reuse of parts and gives us a classic and iconic version of the character. You have to pick this set up if you see it in stores because Timber is such a joy to display and handle. Please like and share this video, let me know what you think in the comments below, and subscribe to my channel for more toy reviews. Thanks for watching, take care and stay safe.